This creation myth is from the Hopi Native American tribe. So, this is a culture in the United States, specifically from a tribe that used to live in northern Arizona. So, obviously, some of that culture still exists, even though the group of people are now on reservations. But this is a culture of a Native American tribe in the southwest of our country. And their name, Hopi, means people of peace. There are some crazy character names in this story, and I did Google them to see if I could pronounce them, but if I struggle, sometimes that's just how it goes. Okay, so this story is called The Four Creations. The world at first was endless space in which existed only the Creator, Taiwa. This world had no time, no shape, and no life, except in the mind of the Creator. Eventually, the infinite Creator created the finite in Sutenang, whom he called his nephew and whom he created as his agent to establish 9 universes. Sutenang gathered together matter from the endless space to make the 9 solid worlds. Then the Creator instructed him to gather together the waters from the endless space and place them on these worlds to make land and sea. When Sutenang had done that, the Creator instructed him to gather together air to make winds and breezes on these worlds. The fourth act of creation with which the Creator charged Sutenang was the creation of life. Sutenang went to the world that was to first host life, and there he created Spider Woman, and he gave her the power to create life. First, Spider Woman took some earth and mixed it with saliva to make 2 beings. Over them she sang the creation song, and they came to life. She instructed one of them, Pokangoya, to go across the earth and solidify it. She instructed the other, Palangoya, to send out sound to resonate through the earth, so that the earth vibrated with the energy of the Creator. Pokangoya and Polangoya were dispatched to the poles of the earth to keep it rotating. Then Spider Woman made all the plants, the flowers, the bushes, and the trees. Likewise, she made the birds and animals, again using earth and singing the creation song. When all this was done, she made human beings using yellow, red, white, and black earth mixed with her saliva. Singing the creation song, she made 4 men, and then in her own form, she made 4 women. At first, they had a soft spot in their foreheads, and although it solidified, it left a space through which they could hear the voice of Sutenang and their Creator. Because these people could not speak, Spider Woman called on Sutenang, who gave them 4 languages. His only instructions were for them to respect their Creator and to live in harmony with him. These people spread across the earth and multiplied. Despite their 4 languages, in those days they could understand each other's thoughts anyway, and for many years they and the animals lived together as one. Eventually, however, they began to divide, both the people from the animals and the people from each other, as they focused on their differences rather than their similarities. As division and suspicion became more widespread, only a few people from each of these 4 groups still remembered their Creator. Sutenang appeared before these few and told them that he and the Creator would have to destroy this world, and that these few who remembered the Creator must travel across the land, following a cloud and a star to find refuge. These people began their treks from the places where they lived, and when they finally converged, Sutenang appeared again. He opened a huge ant mound and told these people to go down in it to live with the ants, while he destroyed the world with fire. And he told them to learn from the ants while they were there. The people went down and lived with the ants, who had storerooms of food that they had gathered in the summer, as well as chambers in which the people could live. This went on for quite a while, because after Sutenang cleansed the world with fire, it took a long time for the world to cool off. As the ants' food ran low, the people refused the food, but the ants kept feeding them and only tightened their own belts, which is why ants have such tiny waists today. Finally, Sutenang was done making the second world, which was not quite as beautiful as the first. Again, he admonished the people to remember their Creator, as they and the ants that had hosted them spread across the earth. The people multiplied rapidly and soon covered the entire earth. They did not live with the animals, however, because the animals in the second world were wild and unfriendly. Instead, the people lived in villages and built roads between these, so that trade sprang up. They stored goods and traded those for goods from somewhere else, and soon they were trading for things they did not need. As their desire to have more and more grew, they began to forget their creator, and soon wars over resources and trade were breaking out between villages. Finally, Suitning appeared before the few people who still remembered the creator, and again he sent them to live with the ants while he destroyed this corrupt world. This time he ordered Pokangoya and Paloingoya to abandon their posts at the poles, and soon the world spun out of control and rolled over. Mountains slid and fell, and lakes and rivers splashed across the land as the earth tumbled, and finally the earth froze over into nothing but ice. This went on for years, and again the people lived with the ants. Finally, Sutang, y'all, I'm tripping on these words, and Pokangoya and Palangoya back to the poles to resume the normal rotation of the earth, and soon the ice melted and life returned. Suitnang called the people up from their refuge, and he introduced them to the third world that he had made. Again, he admonished the people to remember their creator as they spread across the land. As they did so, they multiplied quickly, even more quickly than before, and soon they were living in large cities and developing into separate nations. With so many people and so many nations, soon there was a war, and some of the nations made huge shields on which they could fly, and from these flying shields they attacked other cities. When Sutenang saw all this war and destruction, he resolved to destroy this world quickly before it corrupted the few people who still remembered the Creator. He called on Spider-Woman to gather those few, and along the shore she placed each person with a little food in the hollow stem of a reed. When she had done this, Sutenang let loose a flood that destroyed the warring cities and the world on which they lived. Once the rocking of the waves ceased, Spider-Woman unsealed the reeds so the people could see. They floated on the water for many days looking for land, until finally they drifted to an island. On the island they built little reed boats and set sail again to the east. After drifting many days, they came to a larger island, and after many more days to an even larger island. They hoped that this would be the fourth world that Sutenang had made for them, but Spider-Woman assured them that they still had a long and hard journey ahead. They walked across this island and built rafts on the far side and set sail to the east again. They came to the fourth and still larger island, but again they had to cross it on foot and then build more rafts to continue east. From this island, Spider-Woman sent them on alone, and after many days they encountered a vast land. Its shores were so high that they could not find a place to land, and only by opening the doors in their heads did they know where to go to land. When they finally got ashore, Sutenang was there waiting for them. As they watched to the west, he made the islands that they had used like stepping stones disappear into the sea. He welcomed them to the fourth world, but he warned them that it was not as beautiful as the previous ones, and that life here would be harder, with heat and cold and tall mountains and deep valleys. He sent them on their way to migrate across the wild new land in search of the home for their respective clans. The clans were to migrate across the land to learn its ways, although some grew weak and stopped in the warm climates or rich lands along the way. The Hopi trekked far and wide and went through the cold and icy country to the north before finally settling in the arid lands between the Colorado River and Rio Grande River. That's Arizona. They chose that place so that the hardship of their life would always remind them of their dependence on and link to their Creator.